Join me to paint a cozy winter scene using watercolor. We will paint a simple wooden fence and place a Christmas wreath on one of the posts, and then add a distant snow-covered tree as well. And the whole scene creates a peaceful and festive mood. First, I take a piece of scrap watercolor paper and a 2-inch masking tape. Instead of using scissors, I tear the masking tape by hand so it has rough edges. Then I place this masking tape on the watercolor paper, scrap watercolor paper, and you can see I keep it slightly above the paper. I do this because when I cut the scrap paper into pieces, I can peel the tape easily. Now I take each piece and peel them off one by one. I place this masking tape where the post will be. The bottom of the post stays more or less on the same line. After masking them, you can see some posts look fully visible while few lean towards the edges of the paper, which gives a natural look. Once the posts are masked, next I wet the 3/4 of the surface of the paper at the top. Now I'm mixing ultramarine with a small amount of verdant green. I do not want to disturb the overall blue, so I add only a tiny bit of verdant green. With this mix, I paint the sky. I already planned to keep the wreath area white, but while painting, I painted inside that area. But that wreath area is still in light value, so the snow covered wreath that we will print later will work well nicely in that spot. After painting the background, I tilt the board and wipe away any excess pigment that collects near the masking tape. While the paint is still wet, I sprinkle table salt to create these snow-covered trees at the background. Next, we have to add some distant foliage when the background is still wet. For that, I mix the verdant green with plenty of burnt umber so it does not look too lush. I place this mix along the horizon as you see in the video. While the salt technique is creating its texture on the background, I started wetting the foreground, but I made sure not to touch the horizon while doing it. Using the same background color but in light, very light value, I paint the foreground as you see in the video. Next, I mix a stronger value of ultramarine with little verdant green and use it to paint the shadows of the posts. You can see that the cast shadows are not straight lines. They fall at a slight angle and all the shadows follow the same angle. After painting the shadows, I soften the ends with a clean damp brush so each shadow has a smooth transition from dark to light. Next, I use violet to darken the section of the cast shadow that is closest to each post. After that, while the background is still wet, I use Payne's Grey and paint the tree trunks. Once the paper is completely dry, I gently scrape off the salt and remove the masking tape that covers the post. Then I take a small piece of scrap paper that I already cut into a circle shape. I use this circle for printing the wreath. You can see I'm painting on this circle with different pigments, that is Virgin green, ultramarine blue, Virgin green mixed with burnt umber, and at last vermilion hue for the bow on the wreath. Then I turn the circle upside down and press it onto the paper. This scrap paper is a cold press paper, and the painting that I am doing now is also cold press paper. So when I print it, I get a wreath that looks slightly covered with snow, and this happens effortlessly. I tried this technique many times and it works well every time. The main point to keep in mind for this technique is the consistency of the pigment. That is, the pigment should not be too dry or too watery for printing. When the consistency is just right, the wreath print comes out beautifully. The final step is painting the wooden post. For that, first I start with a light value of burnt umber, and I leave a bit of white at the top of each post for the snow. Then, using a mix of violet and burnt umber, I add a darker value for the shadow part on the side of the post. I'm using a medium value of the same mix to paint the shadow that falls right under the snow. I repeat these same steps for all the posts, and at last I add the wire that connects all the posts, and I paint it with Payne's Grey. I tried to keep this winter scene as simple as possible so any watercolor beginner can paint it effortlessly. If you find it useful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more watercolor painting content. See you in another video. Until then, take care and bye bye from Prema.